In this video, I'm going to have a very careful look at All Engines Go Diesel, a revolutionary character in the Thomas & Friends realm. To understand how this Diesel here had lost his scheming, oily, devious, malicious and evil ways, I'm going to show you my Diesel collection that might pinpoint a time where Diesel started to get a little bit too happy. But before we get into this video, I'm going to take you on some Thomas & Friends classic, the new classic stuff, toy hunting. Oh the joy, oh the joy. Okay, 26th of May 2025, Motorised Shopping Centre. Going to Big W and looking for you know what. It's like bloody Groundhog Day. The store's extremely quiet, there's no blasting music either. Okay, the Thomas area is here. Oh, I can tell straight away. Flippin' hell, I'm wasting my time again. What I've come in to see is not here. I'm over it. I'll be daring and put my light on. The crap could crap out any moment. This is what's here. Don't need to explain what's here. Bit by bit you can see what's going on here. Gordon, Ashmere, Ashima and whatever else. Perthy, it's up the back. Okay, baby fight AEG, that there, more baby fight AEG and stuff. A couple more twin packs. Thomas, Perthy and Perthy. The Thomas Minis, wave one again. History repeats. Okay, we've got the birthday cake and old Perthy. And a Diesel in the 3 packs. Yeah, that there. Boo-hoo. And yeah, these have been floating around here. I'm pretty sure this is here last time I see a lot of this stock here had been busted into, and those sets are still here as well. Okay, yeah, I should point out these are here and they are dwindling in numbers. There's still quite a few of those there. Okay, so going from the bottom and raking upwards. Oh my goodness me, I'm trying to get that new classic stuff. Oh, I'm over it. I can't find it. I can't even see any stock coming out in the middle of the floor, although they are getting ready for the mid-year toy sale thing that happens in a few more weeks. I'm seeing this, but I'm not seeing what I want to find, and that's the new classic Thomas & Friends stuff. I've had a good look around. Oh man, this is such a frustrating toy hunt, this one, I can tell you. Oh, I'm over it. I am totally over it. Okay, what's that saying about doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? Isn't that a form of insanity? Well, I'm going insane, aren't I? The military grade rubber chicken died in the previous video. It's a bit too graphic to show. What I'm going to do is I'll pull up this Diesel train here. We're going to have a very quick look at the motorized packaging, but I'm also going to very quickly show you what's known as the metal collection as well. Warning. The warning on this video has been removed, and this video is intended for people who have a mature mindset. If you're a snowflake style of person, this video is not for you. Okay, Thomas & Friends Diesel, All Engines Go. This is metal engine. It later became metal collection. This is something you push along. There's no batteries in this, although many people get confused. On the back it tells me one very important thing, the year of 2021. Which is the beginning of when these collectibles started to appear. That's about all we need to know about that. And I can do magic if I go like that. And I've somehow magically unboxed this. Let me go in closer on Diesel. Okay, almost said Devious Diesel, but he's not devious in All Engines Go. In fact, I could just say he's a prankster, would be the meanest word I could use against him. I like the way they do the wheels in this set of collectibles. They've added colours to Diesel here, which really are not part of the way he used to be. There's like a gunmetal grey across the top, black with the purpley colours along the side. The face I've always struggled with All Engines Go, although people will say what they like about this is what you see in the show is what you have in your hand here. It's very similar to what you would see in the show, and I try to restrict my viewing as much as possible. At least the back buffers are painted. Yeah, it is what it is. It's got the name Diesel underneath, upside down, see there. But to understand just how far this character has drifted, apart from the way he acts in All Engines Go, is if I bring up the first variation of this style of Thomas & Friends character in the ERTL variety, And it's probably one of the greatest chalk and cheese shots that I could do on my channel, is when I show you that, and you'd almost think that these two characters are from two totally different planets. I think there's so many people who've struggled with the way Diesel is portrayed in All Engines Go in multiple ways, apart from the difference in look. It's a character drift as well. It's massive with Diesel. And if you go back and think about why we have Devious Diesel, which is the ERTL there, he was introduced a bit later on in the Railway series, and I think it was the editor who made the suggestion we need to modernise the books a bit, and adding a character like Diesel was probably revolutionary in the storytelling and really gave stories a bit of bite and edge, and it gets into that whole Thomas and frenemies element that Diesel is really good at adding into the storyline. I know you'll be saying, Leo, that's the past. We can't go back to the past ideas and thinkings. That was the bygone era. We'll take the bygone era away, but my warning is we don't get back to some of the things of the past. This franchise ain't going to get to 100 years old. I would hate for my prediction to come true. I will just bring up the motorised version of Diesel here. It's like the bigger motorised version versus the push-along, which became Metal Collection. My God, it's confusing. They're both nice. They both work on the same track system. They will connect to each other, which I will magically do a bit later. Just taking a look at the motorised all by itself now. Okay, so you've got that different colour across the top. You've got that purpley thing with the black going on. It's, to me, a strange colour. Maybe I've got to paint one up myself to show you how I would have preferred it. It's got, well, too cheerful of a face, but then again it's complying to what you would see in All Engines Go, which is a massive character drift versus the Devious Diesel that Thomas and Friends fandom would understand. The back looks like that. Strangely, the buffers are detailed on the back, but not much up here. But yeah, look, it is what it is. I like it because I'm a Diesel collector. It's a variation. Oh boy, it is a variation, I can tell you. And yeah, it's a cherished little different version of Diesel in my extensive Diesel collection. Okay, it's going to be cruel to do this, but I love my chalk and cheese shots. Okay, there on screen is a Tomy Devious Diesel with an All Engines Go non-Devious Diesel. 20 years difference between these two. A little bit cruel to do, but hey, we've got to go there. And I think all we ever want in life is a Diesel that looks like this. The classic Trackmaster that came after this was very, very similar. We'll take a look underneath as well. Okay, so yeah, the memories are flooding back, aren't they? Back when these, you could just push them along. Whereas this one here, crunch, crunch, crunch. Yeah. So elegant and beautiful, and really that's what we want, but we ended up with something vastly different these days. And when I say vastly different, I mean vastly different in all sorts of ways. I'm sorry that I say it as I see it. I can't help myself. The piece of rolling stock that comes with this pack, and we haven't looked at the packaging yet, I'm sort of doing this all backwards, is this here. At least it's not one of those kooky, stupid little flat wagons that does nothing. It doesn't come apart. It looks like Diesel has de-evolved into carrying nuts and bolts, okay, or screws. Yeah, or maybe he's... Oh, I was going to say something, but I'm going to get flagged. Yeah, and it might offend some people as well. I just think of a device that's loaded with these. Okay, maybe you know where I'm going. I'm not going to say it because this video will be sunk on the site in a flash. To think about the previous iteration of Diesel, the rolling stock he used to carry was dun dun dun. Wow, he must have been devious. He was carrying explosives. Oh boy, oh boy. We can't have that anymore, ladies and gentlemen, boysies and girlsies. We've de-evolved from carrying explosives to carrying just nuts and bolts. And in that lays the big problem. Okay, that's what Motorised Diesel looks like in box. Doing it backwards is a bit strange, isn't it? I know it's going to annoy a lot of people. I'd almost say Trackmaster 3, although it doesn't say Trackmaster here, although you can see the Trackmaster track printed underneath Diesel there in box. 2021 licensing, it says there, and if we take a look at the back of the packaging here, There's a big dopey face of diesel, but it doesn't tell us what else we can collect, which I've always thought was a failure. But I'm not making the big decisions here, so we can go back a generation of the same collectible without using the word toy. In a magical way, here is Trackmaster 2 Diesel. Okay, so yes, it says Trackmaster up here, motorised railway. We were told this was faster and steeper. It is copyright 2014, and in the strangest way, when this came out, we didn't like it initially, but now we do. Isn't it funny how it works like that? And on the back of the packaging here, we see this. My goodness gracious me, look what else we can collect. Interesting read here. Remember, this is 2014 era. I'll read part of this to you. It says, Trackmaster motorised engines have been redesigned so you can experience the island of Sodor like never before. Very interesting, because Trackmaster 2 came after Classic Trackmaster, and we say Classic Trackmaster for a very good reason. Nobody asked for anything to be redesigned or to go faster, and when they say more realistic, in what sense? This was a simplified, dumbed down version of what came before. That's the way I'm seeing it. Nevertheless, we somehow look at Trackmaster 2 as being classic today, all because of All Engines Go. The good old days, I do miss it. I have got 4 different generations of a motorised diesel here on the table. The first one here is the Tomy Diesel. For me, it's a 20-year-old collectible. In the Japanese marketplace, it would still be available today. It's a stunning piece. Next to that is Classic Trackmaster. For me, that's winding back about 15 years at the time of making this video. It's another beautiful piece, but maybe not as beautiful as the Tomy. Next to the Classic Trackmaster is Trackmaster 2. And that's winding back about 10 years at the time of making this video. We bagged it when it came out, but we now say, well, it's okay. Next to Trackmaster 2 is, I'll call it All Engines Go Motorised. I'm going to lay my stick between that there, and we're going to listen carefully to the way these diesels play. Okay, the Tomy. Ooh, smooth, smooth. Okay, Classic Trackmaster. Oh, stunning. I need more of that. Okay, Trackmaster 2. I don't like it. Okay, motorised, All Engines Go. And it's very hard to push back. Yeah, and with that line on the table there, I'd almost say that on this side here, we've got, I call it the more devious type of diesel. And on this side here, well, we're starting to take the happy pills. And in this lineup, if I had to choose one of these diesels as the one that I like the most, well, it's a no-brainer. Of course, it's going to be the absolutely stunning and classic Tomy Diesel. You're probably saying, come on, Leo, you can't live in the past. Well, I do live in the past. Let's talk about these diesels over here next. Well, starting off with a beautiful ERTL, and at the time of making this video, that's some 35 years ago. And as I drag the camera slowly along here, is Diesel evolving or is he de-evolving? And often people said to me, Leo, the future is looking bright. Well, guess what? I can report back to them and tell them they got it totally wrong. It's an interesting lineup of diesels for a couple of reasons, but I'm going to point out a couple which I notice. I'm going to draw a blue line through here, and what's curious about that line there is the diesels on this side of the blue line, all those changes have happened over the last 10 years. And the other curious aspect to that line is on one side we've got, I'll call it the happier looking diesel, yet on the other side, looking at the earlier diesels, it's far more devious. There's a couple of interesting things in relation to the coupling systems and the track systems that these little collectibles ran on. Now, a couple of these are isolated away in their own little worlds, but it's when we come up to the end here, all of a sudden we've got a coupling system that will couple to each other. Also, they're bigger partners and they all run on the same track, and I'm going to move the blue line there, and it makes the last two in this lineup quite special for a very, very different reason. Those two push-along style diesels there had the magic ability to connect to and also run on the same track as their motorised counterparts. With the little diesel line up here, we're going to go backwards in time. We're going to talk about the things that I liked and disliked about the changes that went along the way in the glory days of the ERTLs, hey? That's where we're going to start. The diesel ERTL, stunning. Its faults were the wheels and maybe the coupling system, but the face and everything else about that diesel there is basically perfect. Boy, oh boy, if only we could go backwards in time, hey? But we can't. Next came learning curves take along. It took a while to adjust to these, had a smart magnet system. Nevertheless, the whole system looked good. And I think that's an important thing to point out. When the whole system looks good, it all meshes together. And my children grew up, in essence, with this one here and also the few others that came after this one. Then Mattel had a go at making basically the same style of collectible, without using the word toy. Take and Plays had the smart magnet system. Very similar to take-alongs, but also different as well. And if you collected that stuff, you're going to understand what I mean. Yeah, all sorts of little changes going on, which were, some were good, some were bad. Then came the dumbest idea, or one of the dumbest ideas I've ever seen. It's the take and plays with the dumb magnet system. Okay, so as soon as we use the word dumb, it means dumb in multiple ways. No one asked for this change, yet we got the dumb magnet system, and it's interesting because there was a number of changes after this point here where we started to say, what the hell is going on? After that take and plays dumb magnet system came Thomas Adventures. I've only got a talking version of this diesel like this. I never saw it in the plain version, so if I press the button here, it sounds like salty because it's a pirate diesel. Alright, you know what I mean? It's got a clip connector, which was actually quite good, but it alienated itself away from basically everything before it, which was magnetized, if you know what I mean. Thomas Adventures was a very short-lived little thing, and we have not got our head around why. It was actually not too bad, Thomas Adventures. Then we get it to the last two, which are sort of the kooky ones, okay? So I'll just call this one Metal Engine Trackmaster. So I sort of talked about this before. It will connect with the motorized stuff. It will go on the same sort of track as well. Sort of smart like that. It had the same coupling system. But this was very awkward in the size of the wheels. And it just looked strange. And the whole series of this one here looked strange. And I remember it wasn't selling. This is the one that was, if you could find it in the store, just sat there like a, yeah, soap on a rope. Okay. And then, of course, we've got Metal Engine or Metal Collection. All engines go, and this is such a different animal in many ways, although it is similar to its little cousin here because it has the same coupling system and it runs on the same track as the motorized version, which is sort of nice. But it's such a strange critter versus all the diesels that came before it. You already understand the one I like the most in this lineup. I'm going to point out to you the one I dislike the most, and it's a very simple choice because it also set up a number of changes after this point that made this line very unstable, and it's this one here. It's the take and play dumb magnet system. This thing had the crushed cab. It was just a fugly. Those magnets were such a distraction, and it started to set off a chain reaction of changes that nobody asked for. There's a take and play dumb magnet diesel still in box. Look at that, discounted down to $12. It was $15. And the most miraculous thing about that is, if I go and buy a current all engines go diesel, they are $6 at full price. My God, the collectibles are getting cheaper. If I was going to pick off my second least favourite, if that makes any sense, it's a pretty easy choice. It's going to be this one here. Oh my goodness me. What would you call it? Trackmaster Metal Engine. Push along, had big wheels. It just looked wrong in too many ways. Yes, this whole series was a train wreck, sorry for the pun, and if you were lucky you found it in two different packaging. It was initially found in packaging like this. Just relive the past and rejoice. Or it got modernised to packaging like that there, but guess what, it didn't help it sell any better. It was a very confusing bubble in time when you tried to understand exactly what does this product work with. All it says here is Metal Engine. We've lost push along, we've lost the word Trackmaster. The back of the packaging tells you SFA. Okay, unless you want to read micro printing. Let's just go back to the previous packaging and it tells you all the things you need to know. Push along, Metal Engine, Trackmaster, that's the track system it works with. And guess what, on the back of the packaging, oh my goodness me, it's not rocket science to do it frippin' right. Yeah, there's a saying you can't sell a secret, but there's also a feeling that they're desperate to sell you a mystery. Sorry for the rant, but someone had to go there. While we're thinking about different generations of diesel, let's take a look at one here which became a very interesting train wreck. No pun intended. An interesting lineup of diesels. We are going to start on the right hand side here with the all-time classic Thomas Wooden Railway diesel, and now Bubble is going to get in the way. Bubble, thank you very much, as per usual. Don't leak diesel, Bubble, please. There we go. It's a behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. This is where I sit to make my videos. You can see my cheat sheet there because I'm talking about a lineup of diesels here. But Bubbles decided to get between the diesels and the camera. Thank you very much, Bubble. Makes it very hard for me. But nevertheless, that's what I've got to put up with every now and then. And maybe it's a nice little break in this video to see something totally comical and stupid while I'm trying to put this quite complicated video together. And of course she wants to knock things off the table as well, or eat them. Thank you, Bubble. Bubble, that's my little blue pointer. Please don't wreck it for me. It's just going to be a toy for her now. She'll knock it onto the floor. I know exactly how she operates. Thanks, Bubble. And if I put it back up, I'm sure she'll do the same over again, because she's a cat. There we go. Bubble, you're nothing but trouble. Thank you, Bubble. Thank you very much. Maybe we saw Bubble just then, or maybe I scrapped the footage anyway. I've got 4 beautiful diesels here. I'm going to try and get through this quite quickly. The first one here is the all-time classic Thomas Wooden Railway diesel. This one here marked as 2002 on the wheel. It's made by Learning Curve, which is marked underneath. Take note of the face here. It's got a nice devious face. Quite an interesting Thomas collectible in the sense it was around for a long time, about 23 years. I won't get into too much more depth on that. There's a couple of different manufacturers that were making this as companies were bought and sold. But then there was a big change made, and this is the change nobody asked for. Mattel decided to make something called Thomas Wood. Now, Thomas Wood was around between 2017 to 2018. It's dumbed down, it's smaller, it's got less paint on it. It was one of the strangest things that we were ever served up. Possibly highly collectible now. Don't discount it as a collectible because it's so different. It was one of these things. We went from an all-time classic to something that became the all-time dud. Quite an astonishing slap in the face. And then, under the wisdom of Mattel, they thought, well, how can we fix this? And I'll get the pointer to the other side. And they thought, well, we'll make a painted version of the same thing. Is that going to fix the problem? Well, we had Thomas Wood painted. And for me, this is actually quite a tricky diesel to find, because there was such a bloat in the marketplace of the unpainted stock. It was just everywhere, and it was in the cheapest stores. In fact, the painted versions of these collectibles, I saw them dumping down to under $5, so there was obviously a big problem. It was around, I'll be kind, for about 2 years, 2019 to about 2021, and then miraculously Mattel must have thought we better fix things up, and they came up with the absolutely stunning and most beautiful, I call it Thomas Wooden Railway 2.0. I don't know what it's really called. It's just a classic in a sense that they came up with one of the best fixes ever seen on the planet. But we had to go through this heartache of having one of the all-time classic Thomas collectibles fiddled with and diddled with, and that nobody asked for, and then to go through these quick changes to what we ended up with in 2025, which, if you believe what people are saying, is discontinued, but I haven't heard that officially. Okay, there's a lot of stuff said online. I don't know whether to take it seriously or whether it's just stuff there to get clickbait. It's very hard to determine what is going on, but what I do notice is that the Thomas Wooden Railway 2.0, it's getting dumped in stores, the price is getting halved. It does look like it's all over Red Rover. The Thomas Wooden collectibles, it's a very deep bunny hole to get your head around. It's probably the one I know the least about, but I've got a couple of different examples of packaging here that I'd like to show you. Okay, the first one here is Thomas Wooden Railway Diesel. This is beautiful. It's made by Tomy. Tomy were making these after, was it RC2 and Learning Curve, which were prior to that. CGI face. It's a 2011 era, okay, going by the back there, bringing back some memories. I don't know how I obtained this. There's no price on it. I think it came through the charity shop as an unboxed something. That's my memory. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Nevertheless, Mattel picked up on making these after Tommy, and we ended up with something like this. It seems like it's bigger, but the card's actually smaller. It's the same size diesel there. Thomas Wooden Railway. This one's marked or copyrighted as 2012/13. It's got 2 years on this one. Nice little picture there. I'm getting really big vibes of Toys R Us, seeing this stock pegged in Toys R Us. Yeah, this would be just prior to the time of Toys R Us going under. It's also just prior to the time of Mattel grabbing this whole franchise as well, the 2013 era. But Mattel decided to change things up, although it was a massive change down once they had control of everything, by introducing to the line and replacing it with something called Thomas Wood. The change that nobody asked for, and we've already had a discussion about this train wreck. Yeah, Thomas Wood 2017. Maybe the thing I like here is we've got a little synopsis here, which I think is really, really important in, well, basically selling what's on the peg. It's that simple. Nice picture there of a half-painted diesel that nobody ever wanted. And the fandom called this out very quickly, and then the consumers called it out as well, because the track system of this one, or the connectors, were different to the classic track system. Big mistake. How's Mattel going to fix this? Well, we've had a little chat about that already via something called Thomas Wood Painted. This is 2018, basically the next year. Did it solve the problem? No. The back was much the same little synopsis there. Different picture there of Diesel. And I dare say, like I keep saying, this would be highly collectible now. These were getting dumped in store. I was seeing them for sub $5. You know, Kmart was dumping the price. I think their native price was something like $8. If you were paying $10, it was too much. And that was the thing. Thomas Wood was like the cheapened down version of this. But in the whole train wreck of this implosion and the wrong track connector and blah, 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 Mattel, well, they tried to fix what was wrong with this absolutely beautiful Thomas Wooden Railway. This is a 2021, although for me to find this in Australia, it took a number of years to see these in store. Beautifully put into box. I mean, there's so many ticks of the box on this one, it's not funny. We went back to the classic track, that there's a copyright, blah, blah, but the back of the packaging didn't tell you much. And as I learned from looking at this stock in store, when I saw plenty of it in store, when it was stocked like that, you had no idea who was in the box. And it was the same with the other end there. It was actually the same with that end there, and it was the same with that end there. Even though these could be pegged, most times these were just sitting on the shelves like that, but so often I saw them stacked up like that. Big problem, isn't it? Nevertheless, curiously, the price here, it says $27. If I went into town right now, at the time of making this video, I could pick this exact same diesel up for about $15. So, yeah, there's a lot of talk saying this is discontinued, but I haven't heard that officially. Well, this video is getting very, very derailed, but hopefully derailed in the nicest way. We were meant to be talking about all engines go diesel. What I will do is I'm going to get up onto the turntable. Let me just gently clear these diesels away. They are part of my most precious collection. I'm going to get onto the turntable, this here, and also that there. Before I get the turntable up and running, I will show you the one talking diesel that I've found. Remember, I'm a diesel collector. I could find 10,000 talking Nears, and I can only find one talking diesel. I think it's quite similar to the diesel that we've taken a look at in this video, although it has got the different face, because that's the joy of AEG. And if I press this, it might talk to another engine I've got down here.
Hey everybody, let's race! Greetings, Diesel.
Who was that in the corner there? Yeah, I think the face is a different thing. That's a very AEG thing to do. But, you know, only finding one, a little bit disappointing. I'll gently put that over the back there, and we'll get this up and running here. So I've got basically the two generations of these collectibles. In a sense, we went from this to this. Quite a jarring change, hey? We're still adjusting to it, aren't we? Okay, tearing up on the inside track there is all engines go Motorised Diesel. I almost said Trackmaster 3, which is sort of what I like to call it. Remember, it all runs in the same track now. It's miraculous in that sense. And he's so sinister now, he's pulling along his flat car of nuts and bolts. It's nice to see that Devious Diesel had reformed in a sense. And of course, there he is with his little metal collection, metal engine variation as well. And going backwards there, let's not forget, we've got the Trackmaster 2 diesel. Very, very nice. I mean, I got to like the Trackmaster 2 simplification, although some people didn't like it, and that's when he was a little bit more sinister and he was able to carry around a wagon of explosives. You know, God knows what he's up to. And of course, he had his strange little buddy going along the back there. Maybe one of the most awkward bits of Thomas & Friends gear ever devised. All engines go. It's quite a difficult one to get your head around in the sense to like. It's a very, very strange variation of Thomas & Friends gear. It was such a change versus what came before it, and you know, it is really like chalk and cheese when you look at one versus the other. Very daring for the toy company to make such a change in my books. I mean, honestly, the risk-reward equation of fiddling and diddling with this stuff is very extreme. I will admit, I feel that the metal collection, metal engine variant of AEG seems to work better with the way the wheels spin. And there's the other monster just in time. You know, I mean, who would love that? Only a mother would love that. It's the old saying. It just grounded me, that one there. The wheels are too big. It just looked like an abomination. But hey, I suppose variety's a spice of life. If everything was the same all the time, we'd be extremely bored, and the lovely toy companies like to keep mixing it up for us, and maybe that's the glory of collecting this stuff. It's never idle, especially over the last 10 years. I'll come in and I'll stop these, and I will set up the table with a nice show of my diesel collection. Okay, I've done my best to line up my out-of-box diesel collection on the table here. We'll take a look at the stuff that's in box after this, but the collection is slowly getting bigger. I've got some memories of doing some custom things back in the day when the site was a much friendlier place to me. And looking down on these diesels here, I'll tell you what, there's some which stand out to me as being just absolutely stunning, and there's others down here which are just horror boxes. But it's very curious when you see them all lined up like this. There's a lot of variation going on. It's definitely not boring to collect, I can tell you. These days it's a bit trickier to collect because the stores that carry this stuff is much fewer. But the thing that's really jarring on me when I look down on the table here is just how different the all engines go diesels are versus anything else on the table there. If I track across the table here and you look down there, you almost think the all engines go variations of diesel are from a totally different franchise versus anything else there on the table. It's quite astonishing. But then again, when I track through like this, I keep looking at that unpainted Thomas Wood. So maybe a great litmus test if something's going to work is see how it looks against anything that came before it. Another thing I'm looking for is how many of the diesels on the table here have a nice Devious Diesel face. There's not too many, and I think that's the problem. Maybe it was cruel to put the All Engines Go diesels in amongst the other diesels. The All Engines Go is a very, very different critter in all sorts of ways. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick off, well, initially I'll pick off the three I like the least. Okay, it's going to be pretty simple. I'm going to pick off that one. I'm going to pick off this one over here. There's another one that really nags on me. Where is it? Trying to hide next to the classic take-alongs. Come here, sweetie. Okay, horror box number 1. Trackmaster, metal engine, push along. Remember we spoke about this before in this video? 2018. It was just the strangest out of proportion line that we ever had. It had big wheels because it was marrying on the Trackmaster track, and you had to look at the previous versions of what was going on, and this replaced Thomas Adventures, and this is what the part that jarred on me, because I liked Thomas Adventures, so did a lot of other people. But Thomas Adventures had a diesel like that, where the wheels were the right proportion to the rest of what was going on there. Okay, there's a big difference between those two there, especially when you look at it from the front as well. You know, which one looks wrong? I don't even have to tell you which one looks wrong. It's just terrible what was going on. Yet, it was, you know, pushed into our face. As I remember, it was a hard sell. And people sort of wonder, you know, why do we have a downfall in this franchise? Well, stuff like this to the marketplace is never going to help, okay? So if you look at the Gordon of this era, it looked like that. It was just a train wreck. No pun intended. It was just terrible. Okay, of course, he's got his tender. I'm just showing you what the main engine looked like. And it was made as light as possible. It just, these felt like feathers, like they were going to float out of your hand. It was just miraculous how they made them with so little metal. That's the Thomas of that line, you know, big bloated wheels. And it just distracted from the way that they should look. I think it's really important that things are in proportion. But these failed that proportion test, because they were trying to smash basically like two scales together to run on the same track. All engines go disguised by making the rest of it bigger on top, and then you disguise what are bigger wheels. But this one here, this diesel here, in my books is a train wreck. In no particular order, here's number 2, Mega Bloks Diesel. My goodness me, this thing is a horror box, and I remember these in store, and I remember them sitting there for quite some time. Maybe the Thomases and the more popular characters sold quite well. I remember I picked up a bit of this stuff. I noticed it went down to a dumpy price as I was trying to get rid of it. I suppose the face is okay in this, and that's about it. And the fun with this was, if you had a different character, you could swap out a piece and put maybe the middle of Salty or someone else in the middle there, and that was the fun. But nevertheless, what wasn't fun about this was just the way the wheels were done. It had a really strange gauge on this as well, which sort of fitted into nothing else. And then, I mean, as soon as you start to alienate yourself from standards, well, that's where you get into a lot of trouble. But the overall look of this just defies description. It really always stuck out to me like, well, if you're going to do a really dumpy looking diesel, well, this is exactly how you do it. Okay, the third one, of course, it's going to be Thomas Wood. Remember, no particular order. I've already trashed Thomas Wood in this video, and it's such a spooky change in multiple ways when this was happening. And there's that saying, if you're going to change something, you change one thing at a time. And this is a classic example of when you change multiple things at a time, and then you take it to market, and guess what happens? It completely and utterly fails. Remember the track system, the way the track joins together was changed? And it was a cheapening of what was a premium product. Nobody asked for the premium product to be cheapened down. That's the part that I can't get my head around. It's never been explained. Who asked for this? I don't remember anyone talking about stuff online saying, I want a Thomas wooden toy that's smaller, that's got less paint, and it's got a totally different track system that doesn't connect to anything else. No one. It was only the silly toy company that brought this up. But maybe the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with this is, my prediction is very simple. This was such an oddbod, strange Thomas era that surely there's not many of these around, although they would have pumped out millions from the factory. I dare say in time online this is going to be pulling a premium price, especially if it's mint in box. My prediction is this one here is the one to collect. This is the one that in, let's say, 5-10 years time is going to be pulling the big money online. Okay, I'm going to come along and pick out 3 that I like the most. And it's actually a pretty simple choice, to be honest. Okay, I can see number 1 here. I can see number 2 here. And I can see number 3 here. Of the ones that I like in no particular order, I can't go past the Bachmann Diesel. It is a beautiful model. The face I maybe would have preferred to be more of a Devious type look. People say, but this is a model train. This isn't a toy like that's on the table. Well, they're all renderings of Diesel, and in my mind, this is a very, very spectacular one. It's, it's one of these models that you sort of say, well, I can't keep my eyes off this, and maybe that's the secret to having a really, really stunning diesel. Okay, the second one in no particular order of ones that I like, of course, it's the ERTL Diesel. It really is a spectacular rendering of Diesel. Anybody who ends up with one of these in their hands are always going to be impressed. This one's had a lot of love, as I call it, Thomas Love. The back coupling's been smashed off. Most of his paintwork here has been somehow removed. I'd love to know what happened here. If only this Diesel could talk, maybe he could explain to us, wow, I had this really, really full-on owner who just trashed me. But that's the joy. When I see this, I see there's been a lot of fun had. When I see toys come through a home and they're in pristine condition, it's been ignored. This Diesel has been loved to death. And I'm saying loved to death in the nicest way. But yeah, ERTL Diesel, wow, the glory days, and we always wonder, will we ever get back to the glory stuff, eh? Okay, the third one that I like in no particular order, and this is, in a sense, one of the newer ones from 2021, and it's the Thomas Wooden Railway 2.0. And it's not until you get this into your hand, and then you start to say, okay, this is actually a very, very interesting rendering of Diesel, and I think they did a lot of the models very nicely in this format. Yeah, it's a lot to do with the way this feels in hand. It's quite strange to explain. I remember seeing people review this, and they were always talking about, in a sense, the hand feel to this. And remember, this is a collectible, without using the word toy, that you're playing with your hands. You just got to wonder, you know, Mattel would have had their asses kicked when Thomas Wood collapsed in the marketplace, and they must have thought, my God, we better do something really nice. Well, guess what? They certainly did with this Thomas Wooden Railway 2.0. This really is a spectacular Diesel, and it's one of the nicest looking Diesels in my collection. I like collecting Diesel. He's a very important character in the Thomas & Friends realm. He was the first Diesel on the Sodor Island. He promised the world, but all he delivered was trouble, and that's the most important aspect of Diesel. He was nothing but a troublemaker, a villain, and he was the very important injection into the storytelling of the Railway series. Imagine if you took away Diesel out of the stories, you're going to be left with something that's nowhere near as good. When you add a character like Diesel in a villainous way, where he's a liar, where he's trying to cheat people, where he's being mischievous, and where he's trying to manipulate everything to go his way, it makes stories much more interesting. It's just a shame that the Diesel character has been so distilled in the Thomas & Friends realm as of 2025. We're all hoping that Mattel can see the light, and you've got to put Diesel back on his pedestal as being the ultimate villain in the series. Well, I've got Bubble on board now. Because there's something different on the table, she has to come up and inspect it, and she's made a bit of a mess of the first row of Diesels there. I'll move on to showing the Diesels that are in box. The collection is nice, but there's a couple of very important Diesels missing. I've told stories about a company that I tried to contact, and or maybe I'll just try to be nice in this video, hey? Although I haven't done that yet. We'll leave that story this time round. And maybe if I put the little brush here that Bubble loves to play with, maybe she'll get that off the table for me. But then again, because she's a cat, maybe she'll just ignore it. Yeah, she's going to ignore it, but I tell you what, she's made a hell of a mess of the Diesels there along the front row. Thank you, Bubble. Okay, the Diesels that are still trapped in box. It does take up a fair bit of real estate. I've got multiple table loads to show you. This is the first one. I've tried to put them on the table in some sort of logical format, and maybe the most sensible thing to do would be to come along, pick out a couple of these and relive the past and look at how it used to be packaged. Okay, to start with, two beautiful take-along Diesels, still in their packaging, back when he was Devious Diesel. This one here is 2007, this one here is 2008. We'll take a look at the 2007 one very quickly first. Take note of the collector's card here. Back in these days, you could see the whole collectible without using the word toy because it was in a bubble where you could see both sides. And it's very, very interesting looking at the back here for multiple reasons. There's the old Hit Entertainment logo here. Curiously, there's that RC2 logo there, which is something connected to Learning Curve. And we'll just take a very close look at this picture here, and I'll just say we live in very different times these days versus back then. Take-alongs replaced the classic ERTL, and the take-along playsets had little handles so you could pick them up and take them along wherever you wanted to. It says Easy Connect magnets. On the other side here, very interesting, it says works only with take-along, Thomas & Friends, vehicles and playsets. I've got a lot of time for take-alongs because I like the way this whole system operated, and I know a lot of my audience who would be adults now, thank God for that YouTube, would have fond memories of mucking around with take-alongs. Now, we'll take a look at the 2008 variation of diesel and packaging here. Again, we've got the collector's card. Wouldn't it be nice just to go back to something that simple back in the packaging? This is the one which has got the handle on here, a bit of a different logo here. Okay, and it looks like this on the back. Okay, maybe we'll just go in closer on this picture here, eh? Yes, the glory of take-along. Very interesting times. You would never see a picture like that these days. I also noticed that the take-along cards are actually very, very long, and that's real estate in store, and that real estate has a price to it. Nothing is for free. I noticed the more modern Hit Entertainment logo down the bottom here, and a lot of people would have a lot of fond memories dealing with this type of collectible without using the word toy. What replaced take-alongs was Mattel version of the same thing essentially. This is a 2012 take and play. It's interesting for the fact it's got a collector's sheet going on inside there, and they didn't last for very long in the packaging of this. I'm trying to see if I've got a price on this. I don't think I do. On the back of the packaging, oh my goodness me, look what we can buy. And that, really, I think we need to get back to the rear packaging that looks like this. It just says to you, come and buy me. Another thing I noticed is, look how diesel-centric a lot of the characters are there. You wouldn't see it like that these days. Anyway, it's a beautiful piece, still trapped in boxer. I hope it can breathe. I have got one 3-pack of the take and plays. If only I could find more of these. Again, I'm getting flashbacks of Toys R Us when I saw stuff like this. Oh yeah, it was Toys R Us. It was $30. Okay, yeah. A beautiful piece. We'll just quickly look at the back of the packaging. Looks like that there. Oh yes, there's some beautiful 3-packs there. A great reminder of the good old days. So the bottom tells me 2013 era, massive Toys R Us vibe from looking at this, and I'm sort of thinking when Toys R Us collapsed, it had a huge knock-on effect to Mattel / Fisher-Price's ability to put this stuff into our faces in store. Okay, the next things we're going to take a look at is a couple of talking diesels. I'll just reach in and drag them a bit closer. The first one is a 2010 talking diesel, but unfortunately it's silent. I'd hate to think what condition the battery's in. It's never been out of its packaging. It's probably worth $0 now. The back of the packaging looks like this. Beautiful, back in the day, wasn't it, hey? Oh, the glory days. And I've also got another one, remember, that's 2010, very important to remember. We had the smart magnet system, and then we had the wonderment of something which wasn't that awesome, the dumb magnet system talking diesel here. Just, we'll call it $14 as a sale price. Try me. This is... It's still working. Okay, hello Diesel. Yeah, the dumb magnet system. Maybe just look at the pictures there without getting too cranky. Yeah. I don't know. It was almost like the beginning of the downfall from this point on. Now looking on the table here, I've got quite a few of these. Yeah, okay, remember 2014, and I've got a 2015, and I actually got quite a few of these as well. This is the dumb magnet era, just a standard diesel, but I'm just going to bring it up here so I can take a look at the packaging, take and play. Yeah, remember I suppose it was the good old days in a way. But losing that smart magnet system, in my books, wasn't a very smart move at all. So remember, that one's 2015, dumb magnet, and what came after this was Thomas Adventures, and I've only got the talking version of this pirate diesel. This is 2016, and if I put my little finger in there, there's a little sea shanty. Better talk or else I'll get a copyright strike. He came with a little scarf or whatever pirates put around their heads, bandana. It comes with a cannon, which looks pretty cool. I like the Thomas Adventures range. Unfortunately, it wasn't around for very long, and just cover that up because that's going to make me really, really angry. Yeah, I never got my head around why it was canned. I don't think anyone's ever explained to me why it got axed. I had no issues with Thomas Adventures, and I never saw, and I'm sure I've said in this video already, I never saw just the the normal diesel as a non-pirate version, if you know what I mean. Another thing I clearly remember about Thomas Adventures and this diesel, I've struggled to get the few that I've got. I think I got 4 all up. I've got 3 in box and I opened up one. I'm going to do another sea shanty, another copyright strike for me. But yeah, I thought Thomas Adventures, there wasn't a problem with it. We're going to move over to, I'll just say motorised stuff now, very quickly. I got a talking diesel here. It says 2013 underneath the boxing here. I hope it's 2013. Yeah, it is. Well, it's actually got 2011. It's got 2 dates here. There's some other ones you can take a look at there, as in talking variants of James, Diesel and Edward. I keep getting these really strong Toys R Us vibes because Toys R Us had the good stock of this sort of stuff. It was always connected to great lines of Thomas & Friends things. Hey, look at this, it's open. Hey, wow, we can take a look at this without looking at it through the plastic bubble. There we go, there's Diesel there. Oh, it's even coming out of that too. Someone's been playing with this. Wonder who. Yeah, I'm not sure, did I ever show this before? Or is it just magically popped out of box? The batteries went in the back here. Yeah, very, very different times looking at classic Trackmasters, we'll call it. You know, I mean, the real glory stuff was the Hit Toy Company stuff. That was the first of the classic Trackmaster, if that makes any sense. I'll just put this plastic bubble back on and we will get into some Trackmaster 2 stuff after this one. Okay, 2014 Trackmaster 2 Diesel. Maybe the scariest thing about this is it's 11 years ago since making this video when this came out, and we bagged this when it came out, but maybe we look on the back here and now we're saying we want this back. It's weird. I often say that when you're bagging out something of the Thomas & Friends realm, give it a couple of years and your desire for it is going to go through the roof. Maybe this is a classic example. I've also got a 3-pack here of Trackmaster 2, and this is 2018. I'm just going to hold it back like that initially. 2018. I'm getting a really strong, I keep saying a Toys R Us vibe. Glow in the dark. Got some sparklies there. Explosives wagon there. Looks like it glows in the dark, and it's load there. Also, looks like it's a glow in the dark doodah. On the back, it's going to look like this. Yeah, I've only got one of these, so in a sense, that's telling me these are a little bit harder to find. 2000, what did they say, 2018? Let's see if I turn the lights off here, if the stuff in there is going to glow in the dark for me. Let me turn some lights off and we'll just see how glowy this beautiful 3-pack is. Okay, the iris will adjust. Ooh, spooky. Looks pretty good if you ask me. And just in a rude comparison, there is the custom that I did. Remember when I did custom stuff on YouTube? I don't do any more. Of the glow-in-the-dark Trackmaster 2 Diesel. So spooky. Oh, the lights are back on. Sorry for that shameless self-promotion there. But this 2018 3-pack, I tell you what, it's very much a reminder of the good old days. Maybe one of the favourites on the table was that glowing diesel 3-pack. I've got some All Engines Go 3-packs. I don't really need to talk about these. I've reviewed this very recently. Hard to find initially, but they finally came in the store. Of course, this video was about that, in a sense, but we've bloated off to looking at diesels, haven't we? And I've already said I've only ever found one of the talking versions of the All Engines Go Diesel, so it's chronically hard to find stores that stock this stuff now, and that's the problem going on with the Thomas & Friends realm. I mean, when you're not found in retail space easily, it makes it bloody hard to collect. Let me start to clear the table here and we'll get into some quite curious diesels from more recent times, and in the strangest way they might become the ones to collect in the future, but hey, you just never know what the future holds. Okay, I've reset the table here. I've got a couple of stories to tell you. We're going to talk about Thomas Minis first. Now, the box on the table there is marked as 2014 copyright. These have been around for some period of time. This collector sheet here is also marked as 2014, so it's going right back to the beginning of time with these. Very, very awesome thing to collect. Now, back when you collected them like this, you didn't have the luxury of seeing the clear window on the bag. They were actually presented to you in a totally blind bag. That was the mystery of it. You had to understand the code on the bag here to work out what was inside. And to collect the diesels that I've got here, well, I had to be smart. It wasn't being lucky, I just had to be smart to be able to get that many diesels there. And this is back when these had metal inside. There's a lot of weight in my hand here. See, pulling the bag there. So when I pick this up here, it's very different to the Thomas Minis you get these days, which feel as light as a feather. And I've got a couple of the more modern ones, which are still in bag next to this box here. But this was, you know, back in the beginning of this, really awesome collectible. I've got nothing against Thomas Minis. And this is a 2023 version of basically the same thing, but that inside there is as light as a feather. The metal has been taken away. I never quite understood what the metal was for. Maybe for weight, so it would play on the little play sets that they had. They were quite naff, the play sets. But that's the in-bag diesels, and they're all 2023 era. To find the diesels for this video, I had to dig into my Thomas Minis collection, and when you understood how to collect these, you could pull off something like that, and I can show you something more awesome than that. You could do something like that as well. I mean, it was just magical. Well, if that didn't impress you, maybe this will. I told you I'm a serious collector. I keep telling you the word rare on eBay is one of the most abused words on the site. I'll tell you what, this is a great reminder to how prolific these little collectibles were in store. In the city where I live in Sydney, Australia. Now, it would be impossible for me to pull this off these days. Especially finding a Thomas haul like that would be impossible because only a few retailers these days carry Thomas Minis. You sort of got to ask yourself, how in the hell did we get in this situation? With the Thomas Minis cleared off the table, you can see who's left here on the table. A Diesel still in box. And maybe I'll talk about the little process that I've got when I'm collecting Diesel and some of the minimum numbers that I look for when I'm collecting him. When I'm collecting Diesel, my minimum number is I like to get 5, and I might pull one out of box to take a look at. And there was one Diesel that was really easy to get, well past 5, and I've already spoken about this Diesel in this video, and it's one of the ones that I least like, but boy oh boy, it was easy to find in store. It was a really interesting time for the Thomas & Friends realm. It was this Diesel here. It's the Thomas Trackmaster Diesel. Push along, it says up here. It says metal engine as well. I've already bagged this one out in this video. It's one of my least favourite. We already looked at that. And to me, when I saw this not selling, and this is 2019, I thought to myself, very interesting, isn't it? There's something about that Diesel that just didn't gel. They tried to reinvent the packaging. I don't know whether that helped or hindered, and we have already spoken about that in this video, but there was one of these variations that was very hard to find. I think all up I only got 6, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4 still in box. I've got one sitting up on the back there, and I had one in my collection, and it's this one here. This was so hard to find, it's not funny. So maybe tarting Diesel up and making him look like he's on fire was the secret. Is it back going to tell us anything? No. So yeah, that was a tricky one to find, and if only I found more, but hey, that's all I found of that Diesel there. With the shooting gallery cleared, let me just show you a few more which were fairly hard to find. This one was a fairly recent find from Toy Made at Erina Fair. It's colour changer, metal collection, all engines go Diesel. I've only found, or I found 4, so there's 3 in box there. One I opened up to show in the naked collection. So yeah, if I found one more, I probably would have been a bit happier, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. And I've never seen anyone talk about this online, or maybe you have. Quite a nice find in my books. Well, we're talking all engines go. Let's not ignore the normal Diesel. Mind you, that's what this video was about at some point. In store, of the few retailers that now sell this stuff where I live, you would never see a lineup of 6 Diesels like you see here. Yet we don't understand the box breakup of the boxes that come to store. How many of each character is in each box? I can tell you the ones that I always see shelf sitting and peg sitting. It's very simple to tell you. That's Nia, and of course that stupid Thandy the Flipper doesn't sell. And another character I often see on the pegs sitting pretty, it's Carly the Crane. Another classic peg sitter. Mind you, it's critters like this that's going to pull the big money on eBay in years to come. That's strangely how it seems to work. I've lost count of the times when I've seen something that never sold in store pull big money online. And I'm not joking. It's curious, the prices that I was paying in Australia for some of this as well, it's getting cheaper and cheaper. This was $5 back in the day, and then if you got it on special, you got it for a lot cheaper. I think a lot of those I bought for next to nothing. All Engines Go in Australia started out, this variety started out at about $7, but it's dropped to about $6 now. Again, when it's on special, it's cheaper, okay? The colour changer here, it was a $10 item for me, but I got a slight discount because I'm a member of Toymate. So it might have been maybe a $9.50 doodah. Thomas Wood was a curious one. I think it was $8, its normal organic price, and it dumped down when it wouldn't sell. I saw it in Kmart for $5, and I saw it for less than that at Aldi. And then if I bring these ones up here forward, and this is one where I struggled to find just a few of these. It was actually quite hard to find a painted version. Okay, obviously I've got one out of packaging, but I've only got 2 more. And yeah, these are the ones, these were dumping down to, you might have been getting them for $4, okay, but it was like the beginning of the end. And I wish I had more, because you know, that's the one that's going to pull the money in the future, and I've already talked about that. It's the strangest thing that goes on. Even the unpainted version might even pop higher. Okay, that's my gut feeling. And I mean, I've been watching this stuff for many years. The strangest things happen when something's gone kooky and weird. Would be the best way I could say it. The classic Thomas Wooden Railway was a tricky beast to collect. It was sold in only a few retailers. It was sold as a premium product with a premium price. We'll call that one a $15 monster, but if you're unlucky, you may have been paying $22 for just a single engine. You had to be really careful where you purchase this from, and hopefully the store had a discount on. When Toys R Us collapsed in Australia, I think the cheapest I saw that go for was about $12, but it was stuff like that that sold in a snap. That wasn't hanging around when the prices started to dump. In a sense, for the glory of the train wreck that Thomas Wood was, we already talked about this in this video, we ended up with Thomas Wooden Railway 2.0. There's 2 there on top there with another 3, so that's 5. I've got 1 over the back there, and I've got 1 unboxed, and if only I could find more of these. Hobbyco in town had them dumping the price because they're basically end of the line, if you believe that as a story. And if I was going to say to you what would be worth a lot of money in the future, it's this one here. I mean, this could easily pop up to being over $100 little item in the future. No problem at all. Yes, I only paid that because I was in a panic I was never going to get one. Remember, I'm a diesel collector, and I did get a few at a much more reasonable price. Some of them I got were basically for $20, $19.99 with 30% off, so you do the math, that's a nice, cheaper diesel. It's impossible to see into the future, but maybe the better way of saying it is you won't pick that up for $10 in 10 years' time. I can guarantee you that. But I would hate to think that in a couple of years' time, someone's going to contact me and say, "Hey, Leo, remember you spoke about Thomas Wooden Railway 2.0 diesel being $100? Guess what? I just paid $100. Well, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I can tell you that. I hope you enjoyed looking at my diesel collection. I just hope I don't get into trouble for a few things I said about a couple of variations of diesel.
Oh, flippin' hell! Who gives a rat's ass about his diesel collection? And it's not a collection, it's called flippin' hoarding! And hoarding's a mental illness, and this guy's a flippin' mental illness champion! Anyway, if he was smart, he'd go and collect something that people be interested in. Nobody gives a rat's ass about diesel! Diesel's a bygone! Diesel is nothing like what it used to be! Diesel, not even flippin' diesel-y dingus anymore! Anyway, come close, I'll tell you a story. It's quite funny, but don't get too close. I look silly without my hat. Anyway, about 10-12 years ago, this loser, desperate to get more diesels, contacted the Lionel company. Remember, you can't get Lionel stuff in Australia natively, so he thought he'd send an email making out he's this big collector who collects Thomas gear. Who knows all about Thomas and friends? Who wants to have a Thomas and a diesel Lionel train? Very simple. Hard to find in Australia. And he thought he was going to write this letter and it was going to be so wonderful, and they contact him and then shower him with all sorts of Lionel wonderment. Well, guess what happened? He's still laughing to this day about it. They sent him back an email to the portal of where you buy this stuff. They weren't going to give him anything because this loser just wanted for nothing, and Lionel
I just heard the stranger screaming. Oh, okay. Oh, guess who? Guess who? Bubble. Come on. Down you get. Come on. Down you get. Good girl. Out you go, Bubble. What were you doing with those diesels, Bubble? What were you up to?